because today we are talking about the 2024 supernatural horror film Night Swim.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
Power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for spooky spook things and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Well, welcome everyone. All the fireworks, all the things that happen in the night. Because today we are talking about the 2024 supernatural horror film Night Swim.
That was weird.
Perfect.
That was weird to hear you say like 2024. Like this is our first like official horror movie release of the new year. Last year it was Megan, and this year it's the two Blumhouses.
Yeah.
That's I'm spoiler, not excited about this one, but like I'm excited to get the year started with these. You know what I mean? There's some real good ones out there coming.
Absolutely. Yes, because I also didn't realize that this is the first film that includes Blumhouse and also James Wan's production company Atomic.
Atomic Monster.
Yes,
Their
yes, yes.
official merger.
Yeah, which I did not realize that they were merging, and I didn't realize this was first on the docket. So excited to discuss this. But Night Swim is directed by Bryce McGuire in his feature directorial debut. And also what I didn't know is that this was based off of the 2014 short film of the same name by McGuire and Rod Blackhurst. And this stars Wyatt Russell and Kerry Condon. And like we said, it is a combo of Blumhouse and Atomic Monster. So we'll get into all things that are Night Swim. Also, I don't know how to swim, so I thought this would hit me differently. But we'll get into it when we get into likes and gripes. Heavy spoilers for this movie if you have not seen it. It just came out this weekend as we are recording this. So, you know, if it's your vibe, maybe listen to us first, see what you think about it. And then if you want to go see it, you know. But just putting it out there, heavy spoilers for this. And Jamie, give us the trigger warnings for this movie.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what Nikisha said, if you can't swim, if you don't like the water, this might freak you out a bit. Or a lot. I don't know. I can't speak for you. There is child death in this. So for those who listen to my prediction about horror movies featuring child deaths this year, we got one on the docket.
That's a weird thing to be like, check it off, but like, hey,
dead children.
You made the 2024 prediction, and we have to keep track.
Yeah,
it's on the bingo card.
It's on the bingo card. Yeah.
Yeah, we should. Oh man, we should make a talking horror bingo card.
Actually, yes,
that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Man, okay, this is great. I'm gonna think about what should be on this card.
Yes.
So there is child death. There's like other potential child death. There are drownings. There are creepy monsters.
Now I'm just thinking of a bingo card like rules, countdowns.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
We'll,
I like it.
We'll flesh it out. I'm excited.
Yeah, flesh it out.
This is a fun project. There is sacrifice. There is dark water. Water of different colors. Like dirty pools, if that freaks you out.
Fair. That's absolutely fair. I don't like
Honestly,
dirty tubs or pools.
This movie is a reminder of like I used to really want to have a pool in my backyard as a kid, but as an adult, there's nothing, the upkeep and like trying to keep things from getting in it, like all of that just miserable. And that's not even the worst thing that happens in this movie. So, did I miss any? I mean, there's also references to like health, like serious health issues, like MS.
Yes.
But is there anything else? Did I mention sacrifice?
You did.
The sunken place.
Love is sacrifice.
The sunken place.
Literally.
Literally the sunken place.
Oh, if you don't like pool parties, or
or playing chicken in the pool,
or striking out. I don't know. Marco Polo.
Baseball. If you hate Marco Polo, if you hate baseball.
Yeah, I don't know.
But if you hate what was that jelly cake pudding thing that woman brought?
The Jello, the rum cake.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah.
Which I was like, that's not rum cake. What? That's just Jello.
Also,
there are some like cuts that happen to people. Some gashes.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of blood in this movie.
Totally.
And some glass, entering body parts.
And if water really makes you have to pee, then like this is not for you.
I did pee in the middle of this movie.
She did leave to go to the bathroom.
And I'm sure you didn't miss anything.
Yeah, do you know how much she went to pee during the Little League scene?
Yeah.
Where so she missed the kids like striking out or hitting.
Whenever I have to pee in a movie theater, I always pick a moment of like levity because I don't want to miss the scares and I don't care about what happens in between the scary bits. So I was like, nothing's gonna happen right now. It's daytime, so I'm gonna take a little break.
Totally. This movie's called Night Swim. Nothing's gonna happen during the day.
During the day. Yeah. That is a great point.
The name of the movie is a big spoiler.
Swim. Yes. Fantastic. Okay, well, before we get into everything, I'm sure you guys are already realizing our opinions about this movie before we get into it. But producer Brian, can you please give us some words?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. We are super excited to get started on this year of horror movies. There's so much good stuff coming out. You can listen to our 2023 recap where we talk about what we're excited for. But to follow us along for this year, if this is your first time listening or if you're a dedicated listener, follow us on any social media. We are on TikTok at Talk Horror Pod. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. Check us out on all those social media platforms. We're reviewing movies that we're not reviewing here. We're doing fun lists and countdowns. We're watching trailers on there. We're just doing a lot of fun stuff there, all focused on horror and gory thrillers and action movies and stuff like that. So check us out there. Super, super fun stuff happening there. We're trying to get to 20K. We're 4,000 away. So help us out.
Ooh. Oh my God, that's so close. That's so exciting.
Yeah. Very cool.
Props to you, producer Brian, for the upkeep of the social medias because that is a job in and of itself. And thank you guys for following.
It's very fun.
Good.
Yeah. Cool.
Fantastic. Well, have you guys watched anything new or I guess like new to you? I mean, we're just only 7 days into the new year, but
nothing new horror wise. Because we did something crazy. We're starting something crazy. We have never watched a single episode of this, and we decided to binge watch all 30 something seasons. We're getting into Survivor.
Oh my God. Okay.
So we did our research, and we have a very good friend. He doesn't listen to this podcast, but I'm still going to shout him out. Hey, Joe.
Now he's going to listen.
Yeah,
right.
Who has been asking us to watch it. He thinks we would really enjoy it because he knows that we are huge and avid The Amazing Race fans. Total diehard Amazing Race people. Which we really started binge watching pre-lockdown, but finished it out and had obviously a lot more time during lockdown, and we just got very into it. So he suggested that we start with season 28, which is just a very good, solid season.
Okay.
to make us like fall in love with the gameplay and the show, and we really enjoyed it a lot. So now we're not going to skip around. We're going back to season 1 with Richard Hatch. We know what happens, but we really liked watching the evolution of the gameplay of Amazing Race over all 30 something seasons. So I'm really excited to see it happen over the course of all the Survivor episodes. And so that's what we're going to be doing over the next like year. Essentially, we picked our show, if that makes sense. Like if we're not watching a horror movie, or there's no like new Wednesday season, or something like that, like this is going to be that in between show that like we watch at lunch, or like I don't really feel like watching horror and I don't really want to start a movie or a new show, like let's just watch the next Survivor episode. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're nuts.
That's super exciting, though. There are a few cast members who are avid Survivor people, and like we'll get together and watch it every week. So
yeah,
I'm excited to hear what you guys think of the series. I only know what remember the VHS show that would just talk about like 90s and rewind, or like 80s, or like I love the 80s, I love the 90s and stuff like that.
Wait, VH1, not VHS.
Wow. I'm thinking of horror. It's a horror podcast. I'm thinking of VHS. My God.
Actually, I know the next VHS movie is going to be like outer space. A VHS reality show one, like
that would be cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Who do you got to talk to, Brian? That's a fantastic idea.
I mean, we got to get that out there. Next year at Comic-Con, when they have the panel, I'll be like, listen,
excuse
this one's
me.
free.
Hello, Shudder.
The first one's free.
And then put me on the writing team, and then we'll go from there.
Exactly.
But that's the only thing I know about Survivor, because they would throw up clips just about like past seasons of people doing crazy things, or like if they win a challenge, they could like get a can of peanut butter, and they were like so happy that they like got to eat peanut butter. Like
it's wild.
It's wild.
It's very cool. It's interesting because it's way more cerebral in terms of like it's way more talking on Survivor than on Amazing Race, which is more, I would say, action oriented, if you will. But I like that it's the two sides of it, if that makes sense.
For sure.
So that's cool. And then Nikisha, I promise this year I'm finally going to finish the last season of The Walking Dead, like the original series.
Yes.
I'm considering getting into Fear the Walking Dead because I hear it gets really good halfway through.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm going to watch like Daryl Dixon in France.
Right.
And, like, the New York one. Because I do want to watch the movie that they're coming out with this year.
There's a movie?
I didn't know there was a movie.
God.
They're making a Walking Dead like made for TV movie, but I don't want to say what it is because I don't want to spoil anything for you, Nikisha. If you're
no. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Now I will watch a movie. If there's a little too many seasons for me, and maybe I'll get back into it. You let me know how it ends, and then I'll decide if I get back into it.
If you want to enjoy the movie, you have to get through like season. I forget what it is. Something happens crucial in one of the seasons that the movie is going to be based on. So you have to get to a certain point to truly like get like I appreciate the movie a little bit more, I would say.
Yeah, let me know, because I already ended on or started season 7, I believe, or whichever one that spoiler alert that Glenn dies.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to get through.
Yeah,
like I think you need to get through to like 9 or 10.
Okay, challenge accepted. I don't have anything else to do. I'll do it. All right, fantastic. Well, let's talk about it. This is why you're here, people. We're talking about Night Swim, and you know what? We got to get a plot summary of this.
I totally forgot that I know you did. The plot summary.
Yep.
What's the plot?
Oh boy. All right. So, producer Brian, you are in fact on the hook for giving us a 2-minute, that's 2-minute plot summary about Night Swim.
All right. Cool.
You got
it. Whenever you just count me down, you count me in.
All right.
I'm gonna be treading water here.
God. I'll get all your water. Be prepared, folks. We're gonna get wet and wild here.
Yeah.
Wet and wild.
All right.
Oh, I did like that there was a slip and slide in this film.
Yes. Agreed.
Please include that in your 2-minute summary.
Yeah, I will.
Yes.
All right, ready?
Yes.
Set.
No.
Go.
Okay, the film starts in 1992, where we find a young girl in this house at this pool. Spooky things start happening to her when she goes to the pool to try and get her brother's toy, and she drowns. They don't find the body; she's a missing person. Okay, then flash forward to in the present day. There's a family called the Waller family. The Waller family moves in. It's a mother who is going to be working at the local school. She is going to be an admin while she's studying to be a special ed teacher. Then you have the husband who has just been recently diagnosed with MS. He was a professional baseball player, so that's really messing with like his psyche, his ability to take care of his family, his purpose in life. Then you have 2 kids, the older girl who is more social, better at things, and then the younger son who just is kind of struggling to find his own place. He wants to be a baseball player like his dad, and he's just not the best. Anyway, they end up getting that home because the father wants to do more of his physical therapy in the pool. Anyway, the pool is haunted, so there are many different experiences that they have in the pool in terms of seeing the ghosts and stuff like that in the pool, and they have some pretty near-death experiences, but the dad falls in first, so the pool sees what his dream is, whatever. And then, long story short, they have this pool party, there's a slip and slide, and everybody is from the town is there, and the dad is now playing with one of the local kids, playing chicken. The dad gets basically the ghosts of the pool get him. Anyway, what we find out is that the person that the pool possesses is the wish maker, and then they have to sacrifice somebody else to get their wish. And the father was going to sacrifice the son because he's like the lesser of the kids. Anyway, the family helps to save the son and rid the dad of all of that, but the dad sacrifices himself to the pool to save his family. And there's a whole sequence in there where the mom's doing research and finds this out through the mother who had previously lived there and sacrificed her daughter to save her sick son. But the family still lives. In the end, the family stays in the house to protect anybody else from going into the pool. There's more about it there at the end. I know I went a little bit longer, but I feel like I needed to cap the night off.
That was good. That's the general gist of the movie.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and it was built over a
spring water thing,
like a natural water, spring water thing that was basically a wishing well, basically like a haunted wishing well, essentially.
And that's the plot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes. Also, it's so random, but when Jamie was like, ready, set, go, I was like, ready, set, go, because that's also...
Oh my God.
Oh, I didn't even say. The father's wish was that he could go back to play baseball and not have MS. Yeah, I didn't even say the wish.
But I mean, he was sick, so that's the wish. He's like, he can do baseball again. Fantastic. All right, well, let's get into our first segment of likes and gripes. And Jamie, I have to hear what you have to say immediately.
And now our likes and gripes.
All right, I'm going to say my feelings based on a quote from the movie.
Ooh.
There's a scene during the pool party scene when the realtor comes to the house, and the mom is asking the realtor, did something happen in this house beforehand? The realtor says, well, I didn't want to poo in the pudding.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but this whole movie is poo in the pudding. This was not good. I wrote boring multiple times in my notes, at least 2 times.
Boring.
My notes aren't very long, but I struggled. I do not fall asleep easily. I don't fall asleep in movies. It's only happened to me once, and there may have been alcohol involved.
I literally was gonna say, was it alcohol?
I don't fall asleep, and it was the last Star Wars movie, which was bad. So I don't fall asleep easily. I don't fall asleep watching movies at home in the movie theater. I didn't fall asleep watching this, but I struggled to stay awake because this movie was so boring. Nothing happens in this movie.
Boring.
It's like not exciting at all. There's no tension whatsoever. My biggest gripe about this movie is like less so about it just not being scary, but I just felt like no one had any relationship with one another. Like, again, I'm thinking about this from like a mental health and human behavior perspective, and like I didn't believe that the parents liked each other, that any of them liked their kids. The only relationship that I thought was most realistic was between the son and daughter. Like that felt the realist. But like, and I get that, you know, part of this is that the father, the baseball player, like always prioritized baseball and doesn't really understand like how to navigate having a family. But it went beyond that, where it was just like this cardboard person who just had no idea how to emote around other people. And as somebody who like was on a team, I just don't believe that. Like there has to be some ability to connect with people, even if you're like, I don't know how to raise kids, but like, you know how to interact with people. You were in a team sport. Like, yes. I just don't, that was like, it was so hard to watch him interact with his wife and like everyone in that movie. So like, that was really frustrating for me. It just made it so much harder to watch. And like, even when they were like flirting in the pool, it just like, it felt so fake to me. And I was like, I don't care what happens to this family. Like it just made me, I just wasn't really invested in it, even though they worked really hard to be like, oh, like, you know, he was a good baseball player and the family moved around to support his career. And then like he gets sick and it's really sad. And now they have to kind of like, you know, and now he's really struggling with like, all of that sounds really interesting, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't compelling. The way that it was presented, just like wasn't interesting to me at all. And I just think a lot of it was like the performances just felt so lacking for me. Which I also thought was weird because the father, Wyatt Russell, plays like the bad Captain America in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. And I thought that he was really good in that. Some spoilers, he doesn't play a great guy in it. So like, you know, seeing him take on this like kind of villainous role in another thing, I'm like, okay, I know that you're capable of being scary and like really like this like foreboding energy of this like thing that's happening over time, where you're getting like more and more obsessed with the pool and more like obsessed with like prioritizing your recovery over your family's needs. But I just didn't get any of that like actual emotive, intense performance as I saw on that show. So like that just really disappointed me. I didn't really like, what's her name, Carrie Condon. I also kind of thought that she like just wasn't really delivering on like, you know, she has this one conversation with her daughter where in the movie the father talks a lot about like, you know, playing baseball when his daughter was born and like what that meant to him. And then you get the perspective from the mom where she was like, I was alone and I was terrified. And then like, you know, and then you were here and it was like amazing. But even that, like, that's supposed to be this like big emotional swell moment. And it's still just kind of like, was like, okay, like, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know if it was like just, no, please interrupt me.
I just wanted to ask, do you feel like it was a script thing, or even like if the script was bad, like the acting still didn't, like the emotion still didn't translate for you?
I feel like the emotions didn't translate. Because again, I feel like the content is like interesting. It's like you're getting this totally like from her perspective of giving birth and being alone, which I also was like, he was playing like a baseball game while she was like in labor. That's insane.
Exactly.
That's in my
so
gripes.
Like,
like
that's a good gripe. That's like
insane. The way I look at it is, so just a tiny tangent here for a second. I thought about the logistics of this.
Yes.
Okay. It seemed like he was playing for the Milwaukee Brewers. Okay. So Milwaukee is in Wisconsin, and this movie takes place in Minnesota. So because they said something to me like the real estate agent said something to the effect when they were looking at the house, like, "Oh, are you gonna bring your bat to the Twin Cities?"
Yeah, I remember that.
So my assumption, one, do people have pools in Minnesota? Like, I know it's beautiful there in the summer, but like, is that enough time until it gets like crazy cold? Anyway, that's besides the point. So if he was playing for the Brewers, my assumption is they were living in Wisconsin. Okay. But in the flashbacks, when he hits that massive home run that we find out was like when his daughter was being born, that seemed like it was a home game. So even if she was rushed to the hospital and he thought he was going to take off, let's say that he was still a good guy, and the second that she had to go, maybe she was like 2 weeks early or something like that, the second that happens, like, you'd think that they would pull him from a game and be like, you're done here, you have to go to the hospital. But like, the fact that she was in labor, like waiting at the hospital, would have been like maybe hours to minutes after this all happened. Like, he still wouldn't be playing, he'd be rushing to the hospital. Like, that also seems like a Milwaukee Brewers issue as well, like how that
you should
like,
take it up with them.
Yeah, all of that just
hilarious.
made him out to, like, the story was supposed to be like amazing, like, wow, like the power of his kid helped him, and like that's supposed to relate to the end where like he's gonna give up his own life for the kids and all of that. But to me, it was just like, that doesn't make sense, because you should have been at the hospital, you piece of shit.
Yeah,
exactly.
I also think, like, because part of the movie's theme is this idea of like love is sacrifice, but I think now that I'm like sitting with that as the theme, which really annoyed me while I was watching the movie, because I was like, no. And I was glad that when the mom was like meeting with the mom who lived in the house previously, and she was like, that doesn't make, you don't make any sense, lady.
Not at all.
But I wonder if, like, she's viewing her husband not being there as this sacrifice because she loves him. And it's like, you're not here with me, and I'm sacrificing like the time that you could be here while our daughter is born as a sign of love, because like I support your career. But again, I think maybe that's my own values, but I find that extremely problematic, which is why I think that the love is sacrifice theme doesn't make sense. It doesn't land for me, because I think that that's problematic. And then once they get there at the end and they're like, yeah, this is stupid, and then he sacrifices himself, but I feel like it's like different. It's at the point where it's like, okay, like this is the only way that we can actually save our kid. So, but all the other love is sacrifice stuff was like dumb, because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, this is maybe something separate that we can talk about, or we don't have to, but I also got a feeling from this movie that it was kind of saying like, let me rephrase that. I don't think this movie earned the ending to say that a baseball player whose only purpose was baseball, now refinding his purpose as like a father sacrificing himself. I don't think it earned saying that he was better off dying in the pool with MS than living a life with MS and taking care of his kids. I don't think the movie earned that as a character trait, because I think I'm not like, and I think that I think that on paper, a baseball player who has MS, who doesn't have purpose anymore, but has kids and is really struggling with all of those things. How am I going to take care of my kids? How am I going to provide for them? What is my purpose if I can't play the one thing that I only know how to do? Like, all of that stuff, I don't think it earned the ending where like he would what I just said. I don't think it earned that, especially with the MS plot device in there as well. That may be a separate conversation, because I don't think it mattered if he had MS or not at the end from a base level, but the movie does that. The movie introduces that. The movie uses that, so it has to be kind of included in that conversation. And I don't think it's a bad thing that a character would make that decision about their own life and their own disease. I don't think that character and that screenplay earned that moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. It just like happens, and I don't really feel like there was any significant growth between for that character in particular, that which is, again, I think goes back to like, I don't know, like at that point maybe it's a script issue where like we haven't really seen this like arc happening. We just see him continue to deteriorate and become worse and more obsessed with the idea of recovering and returning to his career and like not caring about what it takes to get that again. So for then to him like throw up the entity and be like, oh duh, I have to sacrifice myself to stop this. It's like, oh, like great, you learned something. I think, I don't know, it all just happened so fast and then it was done. So, and also like then they just fill the pool and it's like, could we have not done this at an earlier time? Like that, if that is the resolution, A, I don't want to see any sequels to Night Swim because the pool has been closed. And B, like it that just seems like too neat of a way to just like resolve this. Right. And I know that I often say that like I want like a neat ending, but like this just felt like silly.
Yeah, because also, and this is in my gripes, like to go off of what you're saying, it's not clean. Because it's not just the water from the pool, as they've said. This is the water that's coming through the faucets. So
well, here's the thing.
Unless you change the water source.
Explain this?
No, they
what
don't.
Is the water
that's an
source?
assumption. That's an assumption.
The scene where like the kids are alone in the house towards the end, like the third act, and the father is like trying to kill them. And then the water just like spills itself out of like that did not make any sense to me. No. Because it was never clear that all of this water is connected. The pool guy coming only said, he literally only talks about the pool. He does not say anything about like your entire home's water source is all coming from the same thing.
Yeah. Right. And also going to when Carrie Condon's character visits the mother who used to live in the house. So when they back out of the driveway, when the husband is having like an episode, when they back out of the driveway to try and leave the house for good, he starts having an episode. Our assumption is that that entity that entered him cannot be far away from the water, from the pool, whatever it is to survive. Totally got that. However, my assumption, this is a leap. I'm not saying this is a plot hole. This is just a leap I'm making, is that when she goes to visit the mother who's like on the oxygen or whatever it is, like my assumption is that that fountain that they keep showing is the pool water that she like took with her. But like that, again, that is not ever clear at all.
No.
I mean, I guess like because the water also turns like that same dark, scary color, like we're to assume CGI. That, we're to assume that that's what happened. Right. But yeah, like again, another thing that's not clear. Also, this movie had a really weak research, like everything
montage.
Thank you. Like what the mom just goes to school and she's like, oh, I'm gonna type on the school computer because I know this girl's name. But also like Google, like that's what Google is for. Once you had her name, you could have Googled her name anywhere. You didn't have to Google it on the school. Like what's the school gonna have? She didn't finish school because she went missing. Like that didn't make any sense to me. But yeah, like it just was such a half-assed research montage. It was just really boring. That was another scene that bored me.
That we'll talk about this too, but them finding out about the mystery and the research sequence should have happened 30 minutes earlier.
Yeah. The pacing of this movie was super weird. And again, I think that led to like it not really having a lot of tension. I'm just generally very confused about the evil entity. It was very unclear to me. Like we saw several weird ghost things in the water. There was like a person with like who was like skinny with long scary hair. There was a big bloated mostly naked man.
Danny DeVito.
Brian turned to me in the middle of the movie and was like, that looks like Danny DeVito. And I tried so hard not to laugh. But like, were those the entity? Were those victims of the entity? Because then you see like all of these creatures at one point, and you see the first missing girl. So like, I don't know if the entity is the water itself and then like possesses the former victims to also like play a role. It wasn't clear. And then when they explained about like the wishing well, that also was not clear.
Yeah. It was not.
Also, something else to mention is something that I liked about this movie is that, and something that I liked and didn't like about this movie at the same time is that I really liked those shots on the water where like it was very close to them and like they're looking around and like you would see things moving on the back.
That's one of my likes
like
too.
That.
Yes. I did like that. However, that doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Because can these things go out of the water?
That's literally what I said.
But what I did like is that when the people are under the water and they see somebody like outside of the water, like I like that because it's almost like the water is reflecting something different while you're under it. So like that makes sense to me. But when
that's what I assume is how it works, because you never see any entity. Well, I guess you see the entity like behind them or like you see the ghost people behind people in the water, but you never see them when somebody is fully out of the water.
You do.
And they're on the edge. No, you don't.
Oh, so
they were swimming. They're always in the water.
Yes, they're
so
always
like their
in the
vision
water.
is always obscured by some part of the water when they do see people out of the water. So I think that was my understanding of like you only see it if you have, your vision has been obscured.
Sure. I would have preferred something where like only looking through the water, because in the opening sequence when the little girl falls in, something moves behind her out there.
Yeah.
And then when what's her name is swimming and like
the daughter.
No, well, not even the daughter, the mother.
The mom.
When she's like that shot where she's like breathing, and I thought that was a cool shot where like you're from her point of view, like breathing to the side and whatnot. Like, but her head is still out of the water when she's.
But I think it's because her eyes were in the water. That's I'm going to throw this movie a real bone and just really, say that like
really defending your favorite film of the year, Night Swim.
It's what? Right now, it's the #1 movie on my horror movie list of 2024 because it's the only movie in my horror movie list of 2024.
Yes.
The last thing I'll say, there was one like I had. I also made the note Brian got jump scared by the scene in the trailer.
Yeah, I did.
That happened in the movie, and that made me laugh. But the one, it didn't like get me, but I wasn't expecting it, was when the daughter slips on the water and cuts herself on the glass. I did think that was a good, like an effective, like scary moment. But that's really the only moment that I thought was frightening in any way.
Because I thought that moment was actually very clever. Because when something lands on the floor and people are barefoot around the pool and she was going to come back inside, all of us most likely assumed she was going to step on it.
Yeah.
But they kind of subverted your expectations by making her slip and land on it with her hand.
Right.
And that was what was really good about it. That felt very James Wan-ish in some ways.
The only time that my expectations were subverted this entire film.
Yeah, fair.
Which makes me think maybe the water like tripped her, it was like it like threw out the water leg.
Totally.
Then...
I mean, the water can do anything.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's literally magic water. Yeah. Anyway, those are my mostly gripes and one single like.
I mean, well, you said mostly everything that I said, especially like the point that Brian made about the people being out of the pool, because like what are the rules for the entity? Like we love rules on this podcast, and it's like when Brian, you were mentioning just like there were different people that were coming in attacking, but my thing too to add to that was like, is the entity possessing these people that have already been sacrificed? But then why was the girl also helping? So like she had a mind of her own to like help people, but like the rest of the sacrificed people were just like scaring others and bringing people down. So it's like, I don't understand like what's happening in that sense of like, what is the purpose of these sacrificed peoples that we are seeing in the thing. It's like, because they are also attacking folks as well as the little misty black watery thing. Yeah. So I was just confused about what was happening there. I also never heard of Springwater Pool in general, so I was just like, that is just interesting to me. I didn't know that was an actual thing. That, or maybe it's not. I don't know. Jamie is looking it up right now.
Spring-fed swimming pool. Please help.
Oh
now
no!
I'm on like a pool website of like, give me tips on how to keep my pool clean.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well,
holy water.
Exactly. Lots of it.
Yeah.
No wishing, no throwing. Okay, and then the connection between like, they had the game of them throwing the coins in the pool and like trying to get them, and then like the connection of like the wishing well and blah blah blah, which I would not have put that together until the older woman who had sacrificed her daughter was like, it's like a wishing well. And I'm like,
I literally didn't even realize that until you just said that right now.
But it was just like, I guess that's the connection with all the coins and, throwing them in the water. Like, whatever. But my biggest gripe, and the thing that I could not suspend my disbelief, was how long they were holding their breaths underwater throughout that entire thing.
Totally fair.
Couldn't do it.
100% agree with you.
I was like, this has been a long period of time, and even in movie time, right? It was just like, no, this is too long for people to be underwater, and like all these things are happening and all this stuff. So
we know that Tom Cruise can hold his breath for like 6 minutes from that one Mission
Kate
Impossible
Winslet's
movie.
better though.
Oh yeah, what did she do?
I don't know,
like
but
10 minutes
the Way of
in
Water,
Avatar,
something wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
So 10 minutes, Kate Winslet is our max, but like they were in there for like, I don't know, far too long.
I mean, because you have to go, past the pool depth, right?
And how does that work?
The thing, and then how did that work?
How did that work? Because sometimes it comes out of the drain, but then sometimes you're just like magically deep
somewhere
deep in
else.
The pool,
You're in the sunken
deep.
place. You're in the sunken place.
Exactly. Where is up, and then the girl has to tell you like, this is where you go. Like,
and that's why that image didn't work for me, because I had seen it already in Get Out, that sunken place type of image. Like it didn't strike in a more effective way because it was not original or new. It was copied.
No. Yeah, that is a great point, because that is like almost shot for shot image of like looking up
just
and,
as
and
a visual.
seeing,
I understand it's a pool and there's not a ton of stuff that you could do to kind of recreate something like that, but I think that you can. And I like that first time when she's at the bottom of the pool and she kind of sees like this like black hole, if you will, that was more interesting to me than the other image, even though it was more striking with like just that like very bright blue of the pool while she's in this black space was interesting, but still. Yeah, there was just a lot of like the whole concept of like what I think it was just too much of a hat on a hat on a hat type thing of like. I wrote that. I was going to quote you.
Oh, great!
That's that's what this movie is to me. So much is happening, and nothing, and all of it is half-assed.
And all of it is half-assed, because I'm down with like a magical pool entity, but then like I don't need the creatures down there. It's like, let the pool like work its pool magic with the black little mist, and like that be that. Or if there is like one monster, like let there be one monster, like and not have it be all these like people, and then the idea of a wishing well on top of like
then let the entity be the one thing, like you said, and let all those other lost souls be like, make them more emotionally charged, where like they don't want you to join them or something like that. Like,
exactly.
all of them like the girl, where those ghosts are trying to like lift you up, as opposed to the one, I don't know. It could have been cleaner for sure. I agree with you, Nikisha.
And to your point, that's exactly like the Insidious movies, right? What's the purgatory place where it's like there's an area where there are ghosts that are like trying to help you like get out, but then there are like the ones that like want you to stay. The further. Thank you. Yes, the further. So it's just like, if these are people who are victims, like let them be victims and let them be the ones that try to help you through, which is why, like I said, it didn't make sense with the little girl Rebecca trying to like get the boy in the first scene, but then like helps them at the end. Like that makes no sense.
Especially because the people who die in the pool aren't the possessed ones.
Right, exactly. So they're not controlled by the entity.
But if they are, it's not explained, obviously.
Right, right, exactly.
Right.
I also did not like the CGI and a lot of the pool effects when people were underwater. I thought that was awful. I really was disappointed when I saw the first creature coming after, I think it was the daughter. When you first see like an image of a person like grabbing the
Danny
daughter.
DeVito?
I guess, yeah. I don't even remember what it looked like. I just saw it and was like, I don't like it. So
it reminded me of the bloated ghost from Talk to Me. That was what I was thinking of like the whole time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Danny DeVito.
And Danny DeVito.
Well, I didn't like his appearance. Sorry, Danny DeVito. I don't love your work in this particular thing. And but I liked the slip and fall in the glass. I put that. I liked the pool lights flickering and the people in the background, because there were some moments where they were kind of even like by the house and walking around when you see the people, and I thought that was pretty cool. My favorite quote from this is, "I think it's hotter that he's Christian. It's primitive." Laughed.
I didn't
Fantastic.
understand. Yeah, I didn't understand like what was the point of making him Christian? Was it just to make those two jokes?
Yeah.
Because like it didn't make any sense.
What would have been interesting is if somebody who is baptized goes into the pool, nothing happens to them. You know what I mean? But like that I just made that up now. That's clearly not what they wanted. Also,
right.
You know what the joke that ends that scene where she's freaking out and he's like, oh, the gate is locked. Like it's supposed to be funny.
Oh yeah.
But like I was like, maybe that'll come back. They can't get out because the gate is locked or something. But I was like, and then it was like, no, it was just a dumb like punch up joke that like tried to button that scene that like totally misread that scene. Like
exactly.
You know.
I agree. I think that there was no need for that at all. Just if you want her to have a love interest, like okay, just like let her have a love interest.
And he disappears after the pool party. He's not
exactly. He doesn't even come back and like help, or like if when the dad's freaking out, like comes and saves her, or like nothing. It's just yes. And literally the last thing that I put was, this was produced by James Wan ?
Well, Aquaman he's very into water right now.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, Jamie and I are water signs, so like cool.
Right. Totally,
no.
totally.
And the burying the pool thing, that was also not a great idea, because like where's the water coming from, like you guys said, but also like they're gonna die eventually, and like someone might be like, there's a pool underneath here, and like the thing starts back up again, and then like here we are again with the same thing. So like that just didn't feel right. But not the best. I think that's
not great, Bob.
Not great. Brian.
All right, I'm gonna start with my gripes, and then I'll end on my likes, just to keep the spirit up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like you both said, I agree. The pacing was slow. It took too long to get to the mystery. There were no scares, and the events before, there were too many instances of seeing it, and it wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? Those scenes, the tension wasn't good enough to justify having the discovery of like the little girl dying and doing the bummer of a research scene so late into the movie. No tension was built into those. You know, Blumhouse does do jump scares pretty well overall in general. Like that's one thing that their movies at least have one really good one. But this didn't really build to anything. And the one that got me was pure music. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like pure sound effect. Gripe. They would have never have stopped searching for that cat. If they were real pet owners who love their pets, the searching for the cat would have been in almost even if the son says like, hey, did Cider come back today? Like after coming back from school, like that didn't feel real. But families, especially if the collar is off, like you like that's a part of your family. The kid loves that cat. Like that wouldn't. I just didn't believe that.
Also, why wasn't that sacrifice enough?
Right, you took the cat.
If the father took the cat, like why did it need more?
Yeah. Also, when he was trying to, again, this is all part of my rules. Why the Disney rules? When the father was being possessed and trying to drag that other kid down, would that other kid have been the sacrifice? Why
He
wasn't the
clearly
cat
says
enough?
that it chose
Totally.
the son.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the only rule that we're getting now.
But that doesn't even make
like
sense.
all of these other kids are and people
Yeah.
are like being pulled into it. So like what?
Oh, also, so under my rules list, I have exactly what Jamie said. How does the water work? Like, who controls it all? Is it all the faucets? Is it everything? Is all the water coming from that? That's fine. You have to be near the water, I guess. The mother bringing the fountain, all that we talked about already. Was there one bad ghost? Like, it didn't make sense. But here's another one that we didn't even touch on at all. He has that weird rhyme about the pool. He's like, when he's like sick and he's just like, the pool is cool and soothing.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
It's like that was a weird thing because like it's not
the
like
pool
the little
is cool.
the pool is cool. Go to school. Like I don't know. It was super super weird that like like in some other movies, like, 1, 2, like Freddie's song and stuff like that, like comes back. It's a thing.
1, 2, the pool's coming for you.
Exactly. So that was another thing. The research scene was
Red Rum.
Yeah, Red Rum. Too much was happening. The baseball storyline was too convoluted. Like in terms of the flashbacks and him batting when his daughter was being born, and then like him making the videos and trying to get back into it. Like they needed to streamline it. They needed to choose one thing. There. I got into the leaving the kid. The real estate agent, if the kid was missing and the kid went missing at that house, my assumption is you have to disclose that in the history of the house.
Of the place, yes.
Even I believe the script and the character, the way it's presented, that she didn't find out until afterwards. That's fine. In real life, that probably would have been in the history of the house. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that's something that would be there. I take that back a little bit now because maybe the mom didn't report it, but she did. If they found the missing persons report, that's weird. That's also another thing. If the mom knew, would they report? That was a weird thing there. The focus on the family dynamic, I thought was more interesting if they had leaned into that more. If they had really focused on it being a wishing well and the family dynamic, a lot of that could have paid off. Like him, like having these flashbacks of like he's like, oh wait, I do love my kids. Like that didn't work for me at all. But my biggest pet peeve, my biggest gripe of this whole movie is if somebody I can't even imagine bringing a full watermelon, not cut, and then having the host cut it.
Cut the watermelon. It's a housewarming party, and you brought a watermelon?
Show up empty-handed at that point.
At that point.
And if you're going to have the host cut the watermelon, make it tense like The Dark and the Wicked, where they might cut their fingers off. And that wasn't there at all. But if somebody came to my house for a pool party and brought a watermelon and said, hey, can you cut this up? And didn't even offer to help, and be like, the fuck are you doing here? 1, 2, I would
Get
also
out of my house.
If I brought a full watermelon to somebody's house, like pool party, I would absolutely be like, I didn't have time to cut it. I'm so sorry. Like, pass me a knife at a cutting board. I'll cut it up. Like, I don't want to, like, I would offer. And like, and maybe they cut the scene where she's like, oh, let me cut it. Like, oh no, you're a guest. Let me cut it. Like, that's fine. But you don't bring a full watermelon. You don't.
Well, and the weird thing is that it didn't seem like anyone thought that was weird. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, thanks for this watermelon. Like I appreciate it. Like there was no kind of scene. Yeah, like there wasn't a scene of the mother being like, what the fuck? Or like even having like a look of like what is going on. Everyone was just like, yeah, this is totally normal. Thank you for the watermelon.
Yeah. And as bad as the Night Swim movie is, as awful as all of it is, this is my number one pet peeve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it too.
Yeah. So here are my likes about this movie. My first is I really liked the credits, the 80s vibe credits. I thought that was super cool. I wish the movie had leaned more into the 80s vibe of it all, like the camp and the silliness of it. But I did like that. I actually, even though the rules were confusing and non-existent, I really did like the Carrie Condon saving the sun sequence. I really like the cleverness of like breathing through the hose that she tied to the diving board, even though obviously like she was down there for much longer, and it's magical, it's fine. But I really liked that whole thing. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was really fun. Like in terms of like the little girl dropping the coin and it flipping the other way. I thought that was super cool. Out of context, like just like a 5-minute thing, I thought that was nice. I really like that all these people potentially got paychecks in which they could buy a house with a pool. That's what I also like.
Get your money.
Yeah. I liked the slipping on the glass, like Jamie mentioned. And I also, this is so stupid, but one of the things I actually liked about Night Swim is that there were plenty of night swims. Like it was, like there was, you can consider the opening sequence a night swim. When the mom is out there swimming, when the girl and her boyfriend are swimming, when he's out there at like 3 a.m. swimming or whatever it is. There's so many night swims in this that like at least it earned its name, Night Swim. Like if I'm gonna say one thing,
how many night swims do you feel like justify the Night Swim title?
So you could look at the Night Swim title one of two ways. You could say like Night Swim, like somebody goes out there every night and swims. It's a routine. It's my night swim. Or it's one singular night swim, like the beginning of Jaws, like one night swim. I think that I needed at least, I think the under over for night swims before going in would have been 2.5.
Okay.
And we got over that. Yeah. But I think I would have been fine with 2 night swims. If they were really well edited, executed night swims, I would have been fine with 2. But because all the night swims in this weren't that great, I think you needed more to justify calling this Night Swim.
You needed quantity over quality in that instance.
In this instance, yes.
Yes. Got it.
And that has been Night Swim Syntax with Brian.
That is fantastic. Okay, anyone else have... Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah, I have one last thing.
Yes.
Okay. My one last thing for Night Swim is... okay. The weird thing about Night Swim is that I did not like this movie, obviously. And that's like one side of it. But the other side of it is, if I had Night Swim on VHS in the 90s in my basement, where like you had all the like weird VHS movies, like you don't even know how it got into your collection, I probably, as like a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, would have watched Night Swim 100 times and totally loved it. But if I watch it later as an adult, I would have been like, whoa, what the heck was I thinking? It just like fits into that weird category of like 90s VHS basement movies that I probably would have liked out of nostalgia, because like that's all we had in the basement. Doesn't make it a better movie, but I think it's interesting. Right. And the end credits with that 80s vibe got me thinking about that. But it's weird that this movie is so bad, but also has that weird like 90s VHS nostalgia vibe to it, even though it's not really going for that. I don't know if that makes sense at all. That's not making it a better movie. I'm not defending this movie at all, but that was something that kind of came up in my mind.
But I can totally understand that. I mean, and what your expectation is as like a 13-year-old is different. So I can see this being something that someone could like as a young person, but then realize like it's not right. It's not fully fleshed out.
But realistically, I don't know if that's true, even though I'm undercutting my whole statement, because there's no one moment in this movie that you would want to rewatch over and over again on VHS. So maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
You were trying, and that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have anything else to say for likes and gripes before we move on?
No.
All right, let's get into our next section. Brains. Tasty.
Spit that one out.
That's the rejection. Obsessed. Okay, Jamie, my first question to you is how can you cultivate an environment where kids don't feel like they have to follow in your path or live up to the career that you have achieved? And I'm just thinking of the little boy trying to play baseball and like the girl who was succeeding in sports, but like, and the parents saying like, yeah, like go for it, but also it's okay if you're not good at it. But like, how can you make them feel like it's okay? You don't have to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question because, like, I think there's, or like I imagine as a non-parent and someone that doesn't work like directly with kids, I can imagine for parents wanting to cultivate like a sense of independence for their children is really important. And I think it's like, allowing kids to kind of dictate their own interests and just exploring like, oh, like why are you interested in this thing? And maybe it is like I know when I was a kid, I very much was like, oh, I want to like do what my dad does. Like I was like, oh, my dad's a lawyer, I want to be a lawyer when I grow up. And then I was like, oh, that's a terrible idea. let me change my mind real quick. But like there was this moment where I was like really into that idea. And I think that like that comes more from like what do I get? Not that there's anything wrong with being a lawyer,
for sure,
but like for me it's like what's the motivation behind this? And I think that like even I realized for myself as a kid, like, okay, I don't think I actually like this thing for me. I like it because like I know I like my dad and I like, like the person that he is and like maybe want to be like him. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this thing needs to be my thing. And I think that like in early stages of like child development, there's like a lot of this, like not resistance to authority, but just like push back against some of that, like the parent child stuff and like trying to figure out more of who they are. I think that independence in kids through adolescence into like young adulthood like is a long process. And so while this kid was still really young and like looking to impress his dad, I think that like you can kind of view the relationships in this maybe as like influencing why he might have been more interested in pursuing baseball as opposed to the daughter, because like it definitely seemed like the daughter had a better relationship with the dad, despite what I said about the relationships in the beginning. And so maybe that's why she didn't feel the need to have to do like baseball or softball or whatever, because like she felt secure in that relationship and maybe the son didn't, and like felt like that was the way that he would like build a deeper relationship with his father. So I think also it's like how are parents showing their like unconditional love and support for their children that's not dependent on like what interests and values and hobbies they want to explore.
For sure.
So I think it's like supporting your kids' interests regardless of like if it's something that's for you, and like just getting excited about that, which helps I think build confidence and self-esteem, and that also helps build the relationship. So that's some of what that makes me think of.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Well, my last question I just want to ask is along the lines of the relationships that you were talking about within the family. And I just want you to talk or speak on if you thought it was believable that those kids, after they had their experiences with the pool, their,
the pool,
their, experiences, if they wouldn't tell their parents. And I ask this question because we talk a lot about kids parenting the parents. And the reason that this movie gives that the kids are not going to say anything about the pool is because they see that their parents are happy in this new house and they don't want to leave. And so they're just going to, keep this to themselves and just to make the parents happy. Do you think that was like a believable type of situation of like kids doing that?
I do believe that, because I think that like the way, again, like the kids relationship was the most believable, and it did feel real when the older sister was like, mom and dad are finally happy here, like we've decided that we're going to be like stable and plant roots here. If we tell them this, that's going to uproot us once again and create more chaos, and like who knows how that's going to affect mom and dad. And also the daughter is really aware of the impact that like all of the moving and everything has had on the mom. Like she's just very perceptive, and I do think that kids are super perceptive and are able to pick up on those things, as much as parents might try to like hide some of those points of tension and conflict in relationships. I think that kids are very observant, very smart, and do pick up on those things. And I think that there could be situations where kids feel pressure to not say something, or like, this is kind of taking a turn, but like also if someone else within that dynamic is telling them not to say something for a particular reason, I think because kids are vulnerable, and like, depending on their relationship to someone else telling them, hey, don't tell mom and dad this thing. I do absolutely think that kids would withhold pieces of information because they're worried they're going to get in trouble for sharing this thing. They're worried there's going to be a negative consequence for sharing this thing. And so then they withhold. So I actually do think that was believable, surprisingly.
Surprisingly, the one peopling in this movie moment, yes, between the children. Okay, great. That's all that I got. Do we want to Rotten Tomatoes this?
Yeah, let's do that.
Rotten to molten.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
All right. We are going into Rotten Tomatoes mode. What do you think this movie has on Rotten Tomatoes? Jamie, let's start with you.
27.
Oh, shit.
Nikisha?
47.
This has a 26%.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Happy New Year, Jamie.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it has no critics' consensus.
Oh, what?
However, Nikisha, the audience score is 44%.
Oh!
Yeah.
That's wild. Okay, I see it.
What do you think this has on Letterboxd? Again, that's up to 5 with decimal points.
1.4.
Jamie?
I'm going to say like I'm going to go like a flat 2.0.
2.1.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
Jamie's in it to win it.
Yes.
I mean, I gave it a 1.5. So yeah. I wasn't feeling particularly highly that it was going to have a high Letterboxd score.
There's some good ones on here. Jamie's review is, this movie reminded me of why I don't want a house with a pool.
Yeah.
Another great one is, I'd shit water more interesting than this movie.
Oh.
Someone wrote, I wish there was more swimming.
Oh.
Was I watching a horror movie or a baseball biopic? Because it sure felt like a weird baseball biopic.
I see that.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Wow.
Should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Yeses.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
All right. The
Obsessed.
4 S's stand for skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. Skulls is how well this movie handled mental health and human behavior, 1 through 10. Scares is how scary was it, 1 through 10. Shakes is how much will you remember this. This is a one and done. And then suggestions, what would you suggest? Jamie, let's start with your numbers.
Sure. For Skulls, I gave this a 3 because people at least learned, once they saw something creepy in the water, to not go back in the water.
Yes,
and that's the most amount of brains that I think anyone in this movie has. For scares, I'm going to give it a 1 for the one scene where the daughter slips and gets the glass in her hand. Nothing else was scary in this movie at all. For shakes, I'm giving this a 2. I don't see myself even remembering that I saw this movie when we do our 2024 Wrapped. So I'm glad that I added it to, I made a new list for 2024, and I'm going to try to be better about adding them as soon as I see them, because I know I'm not going to remember this movie.
Sure. Nikisha.
Skulls, I gave it a 4 as well. Well, it's similar to what Jamie said of like the peopling thing. Scares 1, it's not scary at all. And shakes, I'll give it a 2. I need to write this down now so I can remember that I watched it.
I gave this also a 3 for skulls, a 1 for scares, and a 2 for shakes. I would never suggest this to anyone. The only reason I'll remember this movie and talk about it again is potentially on my bottom 5 at the end of this year. This was that bad. Like, without having seen anything else this year, like, this was that bad. Especially because, like, Carrie Condon was just in Banshees of Inisherin, and she was so good. Wyatt Russell is very good. I enjoy him. It's Kurt Russell's son who's playing him as a young person in Monarch. I thought that, like this was just a pure disappointment across the board. There. I mean, especially because last year, I'm going to go into my suggestions, because last year, the first movie of the year was the Blumhouse, Our Girl, My Girl and Yours, Megan, with Regan. Like, so I'm going to say, like, you want a good way to start off the year, watch Megan again, even if you go with the unrated. Also, there are 2 TV episodes with pools. There is the Bewitchin' Pool, which is the last episode of the original Twilight Zone series.
Ooh.
About these kids who basically like can go to the bottom of the pool and come up on the other side at another place. And then there's the Tale of Dead Man's Float, which is season 5, episode 1 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Yes. There's that pool episode. Also, like, Jennifer's Body's got a good pool scene. It Follows has a good pool scene. Watch a movie with a good pool scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
That aligns with my suggestion, which is if you want a better movie about swimming and featuring pools, watch Swim Fan.
Oh, yeah, good one.
I need to watch that. Yes. I took my suggestion from Bloody Disgusting, because they were like, if you want a movie that features the father attacking a family, watch The Shining. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't need that. Like, that whole the father attack, like, all that stuff. Like, I was more invested in, like, I wasn't invested at all in this movie. But, I definitely was more in the mood for, like, how do we survive this pool attacking us? But I do understand the plot dynamic or the plot point where, like, if it's just in the pool, just leave. So I understand why, like, someone had to get possessed to keep everybody there.
So
like,
that they can't leave.
I get that plot point, but, like, I don't know. Not for me.
I get it. Fantastic. Well, I think that wraps up our episode. I was about to say Swim Fan. Wow. Of Night Swim. You can follow us on all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, at Talk Horror Pod, POD. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
You can listen to us wherever you get podcasts. So, of course, you can find us on YouTube. Hi, YouTube.
What's up?
You can find us on Spotify and, of course, Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you. Jamie, what's the quote? The pudding?
I didn't want to poo in your pudding.
Just so not good.
No.
I love it.
Yeah.
We'll end with that. Poo in the pudding. Poo.
Poo in
the pudding.
Poo.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.